The year is 1979 and the world is under threat. Tensions between the Soviet Union and the United States have reached fever pitch and people live in fear of a nuclear attack. The feeling of unrest caused by the Cold War spread all across Europe and the Channel Islands weren't immune. In the heart of St Helier, a shelter was created by the States. Its job was to connect the island to the outside world if the worst was to happen. It's usually closed to the public, but now we're about to reveal some of its long-kept secrets. Built by German forces during the occupation, the bunker is now frozen in another time. It demonstrates how Jersey planned to react to a nuclear fallout in decades gone by. Paul Patterson was part of a group of volunteers whose job it was to keep the island safe.
In the event that we were going red warning or black warning, we would have been able to advise the public to stay in, listen to the radio, etc., and give them as much information as we could. And I think the authorities here realised that we weren't going to be a deliberate, direct hit. The chances are we'd be looking at somebody else's bombs fallout. But there was nonetheless, there were two known threats in our immediate territorial waters, one of them being Capital Hague. That was why it was set up, and a lot of volunteers like myself came down here. We were trained, first of all, in general duties. Everything was form-driven. Everything had to be proceduralised because you wanted to not be thinking how to do things if the actual balloon went up.
Paul and his team had to consider the long-term effects of a possible fallout.
If you look at the devastation of what a nuclear bomb will do in a city, it's going to basically flatten it. If it was a radiation fallout, we would be able to fairly soon say, well, you can go out for a little bit, don't eat any of the things that are growing in the fields. It would have been a pretty dramatic effect.
From gas mask to Geiger counters, these stores hold memories of a time when nothing was certain. Sirens like this one were based at parish schools and halls. They were tested regularly in case of an emergency. And there's one date in particular that stands out in Paul's mind.
There was a night in April 1986 where I had to really think about what am I going to do. We had a shout and it wasn't a drill. At the time I had a 1-month-old baby boy at home and I thought, well, goodness me, this looks bad. Do I go down or do I stay up? And my wife said, look, best place for you is to go down there and try and help out. And of course I'm talking about Chernobyl. Well, thank goodness we had all of the systems that we did set up, not just within Jersey, but also the wider European theatre. We didn't think it was a chemical, we thought it was some sort of accident. We were able to track using weather balloons and other things, the actual outage plume. And we were able to, from that, predict that it was going to miss us, but we thought it was probably going to get to North Wales.
The bunker is now being opened to islanders by Jersey Heritage for the first time for a limited number of tours.
It marks a time in the world's history, in the island's history, and the world's history really, that Cold War period when we had, what to do in the event of a nuclear incident printed in the front of the telephone book, the giving advice to people. It sort of really captures the fear that there was of what might happen, and the actions that were put in place by government to try and be part of the whole worldwide reaction to any kind of nuclear incident.
A piece of history that, luckily for us, never became a reality. Annie Nolson, ITV News.